Hello everyone, this is John from RPGs and More, and in today's episode I'm going to start rounding out the Building the Sandbox series. I'm not promising this will be the last video in that series, but it'll be close to it, I think. And what we're going to do is we're going to generate some quests. How we're going to do that is we're going to use the random rolling tables for jobs from the Backswords and Bucklers RPG, and then reskin those jobs in order to create minor quests that will help flesh out what's going on in the little castle that we've been talking about. Okay, so in order to properly use this, we have our dice tray and our dice. And we're going to need a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, and a D12. All right. So, D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12. All right, and then I'm going to roll these dice in the tray and record in my notebook the numbers that we get. Oops. Ta-ra! Okay, so for the D4, we rolled a 1. A 1 on the table gets us that the quest is from a mysterious stranger. Always kind of like a strider in the corner. Okay, from there we need the D6, and that is the number 6. And that gets us, who are they working for? They're working for the public spirit, or the general good. All right, D8 is a 7. And that is our type of job offered. Number 7 is a kidnapping. Okay. Kidnapping or rescuing, depending on how you look at it. Okay, and then we got the D10, which is a number 2. And that is the reward offered, which is 2d6. And in this case, it's 2d6d, but I think what we're going to call that is 2d6 copper. All right, and then the last one is the D12, and the D12 has come up as a 4, and that is rolled on the table of complications. And there are no complications. That's convenient. All right, so what would this quest look like? Well, in my mind, what this is going to be, because it's only worth about, 2d6 copper, I think that what we are looking at is a farmer, his daughter, or his child, let's say his child has run off to join a traveling minstrel's troupe. But his child is vital to the farm. And so he wants you to go and get his child back. He thinks that his child has fallen in with the wrong crowd and has been unduly influenced by these people, and he wants his child back for safety. Uh, I think that sounds like a fair thing. So it's a kidnapping in a sense because you're trying to get in there and get the child and get out, and you probably can do so very stealthily. But in my mind, it's also a rescue mission because maybe this traveling group of entertainers is not necessarily the best of people. So, not saying that all traveling entertainers were like that. That's not true. But this one might not be, or maybe at least one person within this group might not be as altruistic as we would like to think. All right, so we're going to write that down real quick. Group of traveling entertainers. Took a local farmer's child with them when they left. Bring them back, please. Now, the cool part about this quest is it will cement in the party the idea that there are some moral imperatives that going on here that they're going to have to decide for themselves, which is more important. Is now, let's say we make the child a young teenager, maybe about 13 or 14 years old, okay? They're old enough that they could be working. They're old enough that they could be considered, on the cusp of what a medieval society started to consider young adulthood. And do they have the right to make that choice of leaving the farm and going off on their own for themselves? Or is it right for a parent to be worried about their child and want their child to be returned home in this circumstance? And how you run it as the storyteller will really kind of also influence how the players view it. But really, it's going to be a test of your players. Do they bring the child back even when the child does not want to return? Or do they allow the child to stay and decide to forego the reward as well as the maybe, the goodwill of that particular family? And given that the local community is kind of a little bit hostile towards adventurers, probably confirming in the local community the opinion that they have of adventurers and not doing much to make them feel better about the party's presence. There's some cool questions in here, and how the party deals with it will determine how things develop in the future. So I like this one. It's got some legs to it. It could be played out in a single afternoon, or depending on how you gussy it up, you could make it into several sessions worth of adventure. Just in meeting the family, interviewing the family, learning what's going on, following the trail of the traveling entertainers caravan, depending on how long it's been since the child was discovered missing. It's a mysterious stranger, so maybe the mysterious stranger actually saw the child on the road. The child has been missing for some time at least, but now the mysterious stranger knows where they are and tells you where they are and says, and therefore you can tell the father where it is, while the stranger just doesn't want to be involved. I'm just another traveler, but I happen to see so and so, and they fit the description that I had for, Farmer Maggot's son. If we use a Lord of the Rings character. All right, but that's one. I would like more than one. Let's see, how long has it been? About 10 minutes. We have time for one more. Okay. So let's get all the dice together. Rolling, 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 rolling. All right. Starting with the D4. We've got a number 3. Number 3 in the type of patron is a passing acquaintance, someone that the party knows. Quest 2. A passing acquaintance. And then the 6-sided die gives us a 1, which tells me that they're working for themselves. So I don't want to write anything else down for that. But let's bring it up to the D8. Oops, I moved that one, but that one was a 3. An escort mission needs escorting. And then we're going to do the D10. That's number 6. And then the reward is 1d6 silver. And then the D12 is our complication. And that is number 1. And the complication is rivals. Okay, rivals will complicate. All right, so a passing acquaintance needs to be escorted, offering 1d6 silver pieces as a reward, and rivals are involved. So what this could tell me, the passing acquaintance could be one of the NPCs that the party has already met. Maybe it's the blacksmith or one of the blacksmith's family members. Yeah, or it could be, well, let's go with the blacksmith right now. Let's say that it's the blacksmith. I might change my mind between now and when I actually run the adventure. But someone the party knows needs to be escorted to the next town because they have some goods to sell on that town's market day that don't normally sell at this town. And the rivals involved are, it's a rival. I could easily make them be bandits, but I think that's less fun. So the complication here is that the rivals are rival business people or rival craftsmen who are going to do whatever they can to discredit the person who's being escorted upon their arrival and make it so that they can't actually sell their goods. Whether or not there's any encounters with things like bandits on the road, I might leave for random encounters along the way and just see what the dice come up with. That could be fun. Or in this case, the coins. All right, so let's go ahead and write that down. So actually, we don't even need to, rivals are involved, rival merchants or rival craftspeople. In the next town. Want to discredit. The quest giver. Okay. So that's quest 2 and quest 1. What do you say? It is only 14 minutes in, a little bit more than 14 minutes in. What do you say that we roll up one more? Now that we kind of see how this is going. So I like 3, so quest 3. It's a nice odd number. And I just almost tossed my pen across the room. Well done, me. Gather up those dice and give them another roll. Okay, now we've got, oh, it's number 1 again. So number 1 is a mysterious stranger. Okay, and then what does the D6 tell us? They also say a number 1. So representing themselves, all right. And then we go to the D8 is number 3. So the type of job offered is also an escort position, escort mission, okay. Needs an escort. All right, and then we look at the D10, which is a number 8. And number 8 is offering 2 D6 silver pieces. Okay, and then the D12 is our complication, and that comes up as number 12. So what is that? No complications. Okay. All right, so a mysterious stranger needs an escort. I'm thinking that this would also be a mission to the next town over. They need someone to guard them. Maybe even they could do the 2 escort missions at the same time just to make the story a little more interesting, but we'll see. Although it would also be interesting if they need an escort for something else. Maybe not an escort to the town. Maybe they need an escort to the local dungeon. All right, they need an escort into the dungeon. That's why the pay is higher. And there's no complications because the dungeon itself is the complication. So they have to do, this mysterious stranger has to do something in the dungeon. And they need an escort to get there, get the thing that they want, and get back. I'll have to think a little bit more about what that might be, but I won't know for sure until I do a little bit more detail on the dungeon itself, which I'm kind of going to start doing randomly as I go because I don't want to have too many things set up ahead of time as far as this dungeon goes. But this is an interesting idea. So they need something from the dungeon. So they need something from the dungeon. And that's it. Okay, that's our third quest. As you can see, when using the quest or job tables from the Back Swords and Bucklers RPG, that is a very quick and easy thing to do. I'll probably roll up a few more on my own in the future, just to help flesh out the story with options and jobs for my characters, get an idea of what kind of episodes I want to send them on. Now, how do we make these things fit more Arthurian? Well, I think, I've already kind of talked about that a little bit, but the main way to make them more Arthurian, make them fit in with the Prince Valiant setting, is like these mysterious strangers. They're not wizards, all right? They're not rangers. They might be a forester or something like that, but they're probably more likely just be people that are strangers to the town, just like the player characters. And that automatically would make them a little bit mysterious. Maybe there's something about these people that's going to be a little bit different. And so that is kind of interesting. But also, for example, the whole needing to rescue a child. Well, it could be a traveling circus. And how do you make it Arthurian? Well, the way that I would do that would be I would make sure that the entertainers are probably telling tales of the daring do actions of the Knights of the Round Table. So we maybe even give the players a chance during part of the mission to watch these entertainers perform. Maybe they have to kind of, when they run into the entertaining trope, they see them at the next town perhaps, and they take the moment to kind of scope out the situation, see where this person that they're looking for might be, and they watch a performance. And in the as that goes on, they watch them perform stories of the Knights of King Arthur. Maybe we pick something like, the tale of Gawain and the Green Knight, or some other Arthurian legend that Tristan and Isolde is another one that's kind of Arthurian, and let them perform that. The players watch, and so therefore we've solidly connected this to the Arthurian legends. It's taking place in this location, all right? And the other part is the resolution to this ought to be something that is a little bit, I don't want to say kid-friendly, but it ought to be something that can be tied up neatly in a bow. So if, for example, they rescue / kidnap this child and bring them back to their father, by the time the child returns to their father, maybe they have, maybe while they are still a bit sullen and grumpy about, what has happened, they're also at the same time grateful because they know now just how much their family truly actually loved them, instead of assuming that their family would never miss them if they were gone, which might be one of the reasons why they left. Maybe they left because they had a fight with their family and they thought their family didn't want them around. And this is done, in kind of proves that the family actually does want them around and is worried about them. And therefore you can make it sort of a positive message there. And that's how I would translate this into an Arthurian thing. It's not a disciplinary action. It is a hope of reunification and a little bit of reconciliation. And those are important tropes. If the party decides to let the child be, and it's the child's freedom, then you could even have, you could also twist it around a little bit where, say, the local pastor or priest who is serving that community kind of talks with the players privately afterwards and explains a bit more of the situation and lets the players feel that they made the right choice. Obviously, that kind of changes what the family dynamic would have been going in. So you want to maybe hold off on having your players or telling your players exactly what the family dynamic is until after they've made their decision about what they're going to do, and let them kind of decide what is and is not the right decision, because both decisions can be right, and both decisions will affect how the players interact with that community going forward. If they bring the child home, then maybe the community starts warming up to them a little bit more. Maybe they're a little less hostile. Maybe at that point, the local acquaintance who needs an escort might say, you know what? Maybe it's not even an escort to the next town. Maybe they just want to go out and pick some berries, but they don't want to go out and pick berries alone because there's rumors of Vikings on the loose and things like that, or, wild beasts and whatnot. But they only have a couple of coppers. So, maybe even that acquaintance could be the child that they brought home from the first mission. And so that child says, I trust these people. If I give you these coppers that I've saved up, would you take me berry picking or something like that? And then I'll come home and I'll make something nice, for my family as a thank you and an I'm sorry situation. That could be another fun way to spin that and make the stories positive, wholesome, a little bit Arthurian in the sense that we are talking about people trying to be their best selves. We're not really wallowing in the muck and mud of humanity. People can make mistakes. There can be bad people, but ultimately we want to try to bring out the best in the players and the best in a lot of the NPCs that we run into. And the third story, that could be the dungeon, quote unquote, could simply be an area that is known to be inhabited by various wild beasts and some mysterious forces. And it might be a cave-based community of people that live in this location, and kind of sorta maybe it's like like a group of druids, for example, who have their worship in this area, and there's some natural phenomenon going on. And you've got some people that are not necessarily aligned with King Arthur's kingdom living there. So you kind of have to deal with their reactions to things. So it could be a traditional dungeon in the Dungeons and Dragons sense, where you end up having to go in and slaying a few things and collecting loot and solving mysteries and puzzles like that. Or it could be a whole new community that your player characters could get involved with. Really depends on how you want to play it and what kind of stories you want to tell as a storyteller. If there's nothing wrong with making it a dungeon that they have to solve and beat and kill and destroy and gain loot. I mean, if that's how they want to play it, and that's what makes them feel like heroes, that's okay. And you can let them do that. If they would really rather, foster communities, maybe start building communication, that's kind of okay too, as long as you've got other things for them to do. And maybe this other, this cave-based community, maybe they're not always there. And so maybe they would actually want the player characters to look into the caves and clear them out when they're not present. Say, hey, we just finished with, ceremonies for the month, and we've got to leave. Or maybe there's like some mysterious force that's preventing us from finishing our ceremonies, and can you help us deal with that? And then have it be anything from a strange unknown creature or wild animal, like a dragon, or not a traditional dragon, but like a huge crocodile type creature. You could have something like that. You could also have it be something like a extra large eagle that is trying to use the area as its feeding ground and maybe disrupting things with the druids. There's any number of things you could come up with that would lend itself well to a Arthurian style setting. The big thing is keeping the foes human or human-ish, and giving everyone a chance to be their best selves. Giving there a chance to be a peaceful resolution. It doesn't always have to end in combat. Sometimes it can end in clever actions and trickery, and that's cool too. And just making sure that you leave yourself as the storyteller open to those options, and don't let yourself get kind of hardlined into, well, this is how the story has to end. It can end any way that the players choose to end it. And you need to be open to that and willing to be a little bit flexible. And that's kind of the hardest thing for some storytellers. All right. But I think I've gilded that lily enough. Thank you very much for your time and attention in this video. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope that you got something fun out of it. I certainly enjoyed rolling up those quests for you, and I look forward to putting this all together soon to start playing a solo game. All right. Thank you very much for your time, and peace be with you. Bye-bye now.